Weights and Downer. You or someone you know has lost the ability to earn a living because someone put the company interests before their well-being. In times like these, there's one firm who has handled hundreds of catastrophic and lost earning cases. Before you settle fast with a company's attorney, give Weights and Downer a call. 985-876-0870. Weights and Downer. Let us fight for your rights.
And welcome back to Bayou Time. I'm Martin Foss with the Sheriff of Terrebonne Parish, Sheriff Tim Saunier, and we have the Police Chief, Chief Travis Terrio. Good to see you guys.
Thank you for having us.
Certainly, we're going to talk about the New Orleans situation, how it relates to Terrebonne and Mardi Gras and big events, and we'll do that in a second. But Chief, I understand you have some new information on the bomb threat at Ellender School today.
Yes, we do. Early this morning, we received a call through the FBI tip line advising us of a bomb threat at Ellender Memorial High School. Our investigators jumped on it really quick. They assembled a team. They got out there in the early morning hours before school was even anywhere near being taken in. And they jumped on the investigation, and it led to the arrest of a juvenile that was a student at the school.
We see this more and more. You're dealing quite a bit with juveniles. I'm sure the sheriff is also, but are you seeing an escalation in it? Is it plateauing, or where do we stand with that?
Well, these bomb threats that we see, this goes all the way back to when I was in school, people pulling a firearm, making bomb threats. A good portion of the time we end up making an arrest and solving it. But even with the amount of calls we get, we don't take anything for granted.
Right. And I know sometimes it's treated differently today than it was way back. And as we sort of morph into the New Year's incident in New Orleans, Chief, you also had a New Year's Day murder that you had to.
Yes, we did. Tyson Vincent was tragically killed on Bryant Street shortly after lunchtime on New Year's. Our officers responded to the complaint, and they located him suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. And they quickly were able to develop suspects on it. And Asia Rittenhouse was taken into custody and charged with principal to second-degree murder. At the present time, we still have an outstanding warrant for Joseph Williams, 27 years old, for second-degree murder.
Wow. Just the ages is what always sticks out to me. Let's sort of morph into the tragedy that took place in New Orleans. And I was sort of shocked to hear some of the degrees of knowledge and people knowing people from Houma, knowing some of the victims, but it got me thinking that we deal with Mardi Gras. We deal with all kinds of fairs and festivals over here. And Sheriff, I thought it would be wise to bring you all on and sort of talk to the people about, there's people out there going, okay, during Mardi Gras, what stops someone from entering a street here in Terrebonne Parish, accelerating? And we had some talk off camera, but you were making pretty good sense of what's taking place. Let me give you the floor so you can sort of maybe bring some knowledge to that for us.
Well, any situation when there's large crowds, from a festival to Mardi Gras, we try to mitigate as many things as we can. First, traffic control. If you notice when the parade, like use the parade for example, when the parade is moving on Park, the only way you can move is you're going to move up on Main, but then when it moves on Main, the only place you can move on Park. So we have the Bayou as a natural barrier, but then we're looking at every cross street where we have police officers, and we also have units that are blocking the roads, and we also use the fire departments for a lot of those areas where we can block those bridges. Not just for something like this, but just somebody not knowing that they're in there, they're just going to decide they're going to turn on the bridge. All of a sudden, there's a crowd of people. So we try to mitigate a lot of those things every single year of Mardi Gras. And number one is for security, for the safety of the people on the parade routes. And but these are the things we do constantly every single parade that we try to mitigate as much as we can.
Let me ask the chief this too, and before we take our first break. We're listening to the superintendent in New Orleans, and everybody can be a Monday morning quarterback. The situation in New Orleans has some definite advantages. They've handled lots of Mardi Gras, lots of crowds before, but on this one, they're under scrutiny by the national media. Just your thoughts on how this could relate to preparation in Houma, and should we be crucifying a superintendent in New Orleans or a mayor in New Orleans, or can this pretty much happen anywhere in the country?
I think it can happen anywhere. But as far as going in and crucifying another town without knowing all of the details and everything behind the scenes and the stuff that we all don't know, I don't think that's fair either. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you that we, and when I say we, both myself and the sheriff, we're looking at our plans and making sure we can provide for the safest Mardi Gras possible. If there's things that we can add to make it safer, we're going to do it. And I know he feels the same way. But, it's hard to prepare yourself for the unknown, but we're going to make it as safe as we can.
Like we've had shootings on the parade route, but what I've seen is such quick response. And I think y'all have it strategically planned, Sheriff, where I know y'all meeting. If somebody were to get around the barricades and the police units that are at every intersection, there's multiple police officers right there that could take the vehicle out or the driver out. This is not by chance, is it?
No. So especially the roads, I mean, we have police officers, like I said, at every single street corner. Certain areas that require a little more management, there's even more police officers. And as the parade moves, more officers move into those particular areas as the parade's moving, because now the crowd's starting to move, and to anticipate more people going to the parade or trying to catch the parade twice. So we're mitigating from traffic to personnel and everything as the parade goes. You'll notice when we move parade, it starts getting heavier downtown. Mm-hmm. And earlier parts of the parade, not a lot of people there. So a lot of people catch the parade twice. So it's even more people, more concern to where we can control everything as far as safety from the roads to additional officers out in those locations.
All right, let's do this. We'll take a break. We'll come back with the sheriff and the police chief. We're going to talk about some things and we won't talk about other things. We don't want to let the criminals know everything that's going on, but there's a lot of things that are implemented during Mardi Gras here in the area. It's the second biggest Mardi Gras in the state of Louisiana. So they're always talking about New Orleans having good crowd control. We've got some pretty good doggone crowd control here in our area. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System. Your health is our legacy. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bourke, know your rights.
All right, we are back with the Sheriff of Terrebonne Parish, Tim Saunier, and also the Police Chief, Travis Terrio. We're talking about, I know they're not related in certain ways, the New Orleans incident, but because we have Mardi Gras and because we have large crowds, we thought we would bring it up and talk about, how they're prepared to handle that if somebody would think about doing that in Terrebonne Parish, which sort of leads me to, I guess, the next, we're not going to tell them about technologies y'all have. Y'all got some pretty good stuff now. But I know y'all both deploy drones during Mardi Gras. So not only are the ground units deployed, but y'all got eyes in the skies at multiple locations.
We utilize that one to observe the areas and other elevated areas. So in case anybody wanted to do something stupid, we can see what's going on up there. And that's part of our part of what we do, to see what's elevated in case anybody decided to get up there and start causing harm to the crowd. We can foresee that. And there's a lot of vulnerable areas that we've identified where the drones actually observe those particular areas for the safety of our people that's enjoying Mardi Gras.
Chief, I don't know if it was a couple of years ago, just a regular truck coming down, made a wrong turn from out of town, made a wrong turn down Main Street. Not only was the crowd screaming at him to stop, but the police handled it beautifully, jumped in real quick. And I guess we're prepared to draw if it was something sinister, but it wasn't. It was just somebody that made a wrong turn, didn't know where they were at. But it showed me how quick and I guess how alert that the police officers are. I think police officers here are pretty aware that the crowd could get a little testy at times, couldn't they?
They do. And, one of the most important things that we now have in today's law enforcement world is communication. Everybody working the parade, every agency is on one channel. So we know everything going on. Whenever you talk about drones, we combine our resources, and there's a drone team that assesses the situation. And it goes all the way down to helping the sheriff and myself assess whenever the gaps in the parade, because that causes safety issues as well. So the capabilities we have now help for a more efficient Mardi Gras and safer Mardi Gras.
You bring up a good point. I'll turn it to the sheriff here because you've had to answer this many times about the gaps in the parades, that everybody wants a 5-hour parade. We pay a lot of money. We pay permits. I get it. I rode Mardi Gras for a long, long time. But strategically, for safety, you're not just getting up there and saying, okay, we're doing this just to do it. There's reasons.
It's absolutely right. As the parade's moving, and you'll notice any law enforcement officer, when the parade's moving, there are less problems to the crowd as when the parade stops. Then you're dealing with fights. You're dealing with a lot of those type of things. I guess they get bored with nothing, and next thing you know, they're fighting. But you'll hear more disturbances when the parade stopped than when it's moving.
And sometimes we think about coming on and doing these shows, and I've talked to y'all about this off camera. You don't want to give anybody the idea, but at the same time, you want to let them know that we don't want to brag and say you're ready for them, but y'all have prepared for these moments, and it's not like this is the first Mardi Gras. It's going on and on and on. Y'all have learned from past Mardi Gras and added on to it. So, Chief, I would assume that every officer is prepared and ready by this point.
Yeah, and after the first of the year, every year, we have a group of guys that take care of our parade planning, and so does the sheriff. They're in full speed ahead preparing for Mardi Gras right now, making sure that we are prepared by the time the first Mardi Gras comes around. Pretty soon they're going to start driving the routes, looking for obstructions and any potential hazards there may be along the route. And we're going to start addressing all of that all the way until the first parade and throughout Mardi Gras. So right now, as we speak, our guys are getting ready.
So, Sheriff, let me ask you, how many agencies are involved in a local Houma parade?
Well, we get some help periodically from other outside agencies. They'll come or participate in the parade. You'll see sometimes school resource officers that are from outside, or a law enforcement officer from outside, their bands here, and they'll put them behind which helps us.
That's
I mean,
great.
That's one less officer we have to put, that we can put something behind somewhere else. So there's a presence throughout the route for that, for more bands or whatever. We always try to keep that. So when these type of outside bands come in and they bring their own law enforcement, we'll put them in a parade right behind them so they can assist in that. I mean, it's good to have we have law enforcement, as you know, we have pretty much a police car behind just about every float, if not every other float. So we can kind of keep an eye on the parade itself, and we have our officers along the street route. I mean, we probably, between both of us, we probably have 150, 200 officers out there on the route itself. That is not including the perimeters, which is another whole level of security, which we put into place.
And I would think worst case scenario, and I'm going to jump into the next segment right now. We'll eat up a little time on the third segment. If that would take place in Terrebonne Parish, y'all have barriers along the way. So they may hit one sector, but they're not going to hit sector 2 and sector 3 and sector 4 like happened on Bourbon Street. Y'all have fire trucks in play. Y'all have, just big vehicles all over. It would be very difficult to maneuver.
Yes. And we do have those barriers, and we utilize support from the fire department and others to help provide those type of things that assist in us in creating those barriers.
And not to mention, once the vehicle would be stopped or whatever, a lot of dogs. How many dogs y'all have now, Sheriff?
I have 6.
Say, how many y'all have?
4.
4. So I know I always see the dogs, during Mardi Gras.
And they're all working together during Mardi Gras.
Wow, that's incredible. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We thought this was an important topic, and it's very important in today's times to know that our law enforcement, they're ready, they're watching, they don't take all this for granted. They don't look at another city and say, that'll never happen here. That's not how they think. Take a break. We'll be right back.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough.
Mark's trying to get his time back that we made
All
him
right,
go over.
welcome back. We're talking with the sheriff and the chief about large events and how do they stop or attempt to stop something that took place in New Orleans. Let's go to the new weapons laws or whatever. I'm sure there's a lot of people go, wow, I'm going to just carry my gun to Mardi Gras. The answer would be no.
That's
You
correct.
can't. Let's talk about that, Chief.
Yeah. So a lot of people, they've heard the concealed carry law, and it's great. You can conceal carry now. Does not mean you can conceal carry in government buildings on parade routes. That does not mean that they can do that. They need to make sure they educate themselves on the concealed carry law so they know what they can and can't do.
And also restaurants can tell you they don't want the weapon in the restaurant, if I'm not mistaken. Let me ask you, weapons and alcohol don't mix anyway.
No.
You certainly don't want
No,
everybody having a beer or two and they got a weapon on them.
no, sir. And with the concealed carry, it's just like with the concealed carry law, and you have to respect private property. When it comes to restaurants, it comes to stores, convenience stores or whatever. If it's their rules, it's their private property, you respect private property. So if they welcome it, they welcome it. If they say it's not welcome, then you have to, that's part of the deal. I always tell people, a good rule of thumb is respect the private property, because when you go to a store, it's privately owned, it's not public. So you respect, if they say no firearms, then you respect that.
And I would think y'all probably going to start doing some marketing and some advertising, because for all the people that have buildings along the parade routes, and we're one, you can have your weapons inside and take care of your business. But if you decide, okay, I'm going to walk down the street and see my old buddy down the street and they got a band playing, and you keep your pistol in your pocket, you got to check yourself before you hit the door, right?
Right.
Yeah. So what are y'all going to do to sort of bring out to the public? I think you made a point during the break, Sheriff. You don't want to come out too early because they forget. So y'all going to start reminding the
We'll
public.
start pushing as it gets closer to Mardi Gras, to do's and don'ts, and just common safety things of courtesy to the other patrons during the Mardi Gras. And we put things out just prior to Mardi Gras. That way everybody's familiar with everything.
Chief, does it give you a heightened sense? I know now that with all this in the news and national media, does it sort of change the way y'all approach Mardi Gras, like every vehicle that looks suspicious? Do you get a little more intense on it, or how does that change the outlook?
We've always taken public safety serious. It really doesn't change much. There's things we're already doing, and we just seeing things that maybe we can do better.
Yeah.
There's always room for improvement, and if we can improve a little bit each year, we will. But as far as how we look at things now, it's the same way we looked at it last year. It's the same way we looked at it the year before. We've always taken these threats and potential risks serious, because Mardi Gras is a huge event in Terrebonne Parish, and we want to make sure it's as safe as possible.
And I've said it before to both of you. We're blessed to have the law enforcement we do in this area who are so attuned. I mean, parades around here are great and they're fun, but they're fun and they're great because y'all are out there. I mean, everybody feels pretty safe all the time. And I imagine that's the idea, to feel safe, right?
And feel safe, and the public can feel safe, and that, no matter what happens, there's law enforcement not far. They're right around the corner, or they're right there, and I can see them. Pretty much, I don't think there's a place on a parade route or any function you're not going to see law enforcement presence. Mm-hmm. And usually that generally is going to help the public. That way they can be comfortable enjoying their time, whether it's a festival or it's a parade.
Yeah, when we're on the balcony, sometimes some of our guests who are from out of town, a fight will start. 10 seconds later, 6 or 7 cops on the scene. They go, where did they come from? They're everywhere. So I guess that's what you want the public to know, right? Anything new for parades this year? Same route, same everything, pretty much?
As far as I know, I don't think we have any changes, huh?
Everything's the same.
All right, so I guess that's easier for y'all too. Once you've seen it and you deal with it several times, it becomes habit, but you can make it better and make it stronger when you know exactly what's going to take place.
It's really, right now, it's just all fine-tuning logistics. Like Travis said earlier, checking the roads, make sure there's no hiccups for the floats, lighting, those type of things of concern. And of course, if there's areas that are dark, then that's where the parish comes in. They can get light plants there to add additional lighting, and that's all important. Those are the things that we're ironing out now and identifying now, whether it's, okay, well, that light's out here, well, energy needs to get that light fixed or sleek or whatever. But those type of things, we identify those things now to be prepared.
And one piece of advice as we're about to wrap up, for people who throw firecrackers or have the poppers that allow, don't do it. It sounds like a gunshot. It puts everybody on edge. So refrain from the things that mimic gunshots to help everyone.
And we always remind even Mardi Gras cruisers, the Mylar, I guess at one point in time, they thought it was cool, the one that shoots the confetti.
Right.
But that Mylar is a conductor. So if it's near a transformer, people think there's an explosion. There's a big reason why you don't use anything Mylar on a parade, because let them pop and all of a sudden everybody thinks there's a big old explosion down the road and causes panic. So there's a lot of issues. Not only that, I think it kind of blows the transformer, so I think it gets pretty expensive.
All right, Sheriff, Chief, thank y'all so much. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see y'all around the corner.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.